is Thursday, the 5th of February, 2026. And yesterday was a long day in the office. I did take my dogs up for a nice long walk over an hour while it was a hike in the woods. But oh my God, I was in the office until like maybe 10 o'clock last night. It started super early in the morning. And just because there's so much information out there now, especially since the Epstein files got released, again, there's a lot of redactions. There's a lot of information there that people have received over the years that are not in these files. And there are more files, again, still to be released. But there's a lot of people looking like clowns now, like Ben Shapiro, etc. Like there's no lists, there's no Epstein file. Like this is a fake news, whatever he was saying. Well, it's not fake news. And even people in Canada on these lists. And it just reminded me of Pierre Elliott Trudeau when, it was Catherine or Kathy, however you want to call her name, O'Brien, Obrien, who she published a book in 1995, and I think it was called Trance of America. Wait, just one second here. Just one second here. I forgot the name of the book. But anyways, she named Pierre Elliott Trudeau as being part of the group of people that were part of this elite satanic Kabbalist pedophile ring. And so he, again, being named, even in interviews. So this is not me saying it. And it's and she sounds very credible. So it's really hard to just dispute that. And I don't understand why this has not been addressed. Well, I do know why it's not been addressed in Canada, because our mainstream media is state funded and they've been covering up for these disgusting human beings for decades. And even with marrying Margaret Trudeau, she was a teenager when they met. And there are still disputes as to when he first met her. Her father was Sinclair. He was in politics, etc., and very well known. And the family did travel to BC, all over the world, but BC during these periods as well. So there's questions about when they actually met. But either way, she was still like 18 or 19. They're saying when they met, he was 30 years older than her, and then married her shortly after. And even that is just freaking weird. Like even Beyonce with Jay-Z, she was a teenager and he was, again, like many years older than her. And Celine Dion, the same thing. And people just allow this to just friggin' happen without questioning it. I don't understand why. And other cases like that I can discuss, but things that are not really mentioned. Yeah, the Sinclair family. All right, I just gotta go into my notes here. 22 when they married. He was in his 50s. And she obviously was not attracted to him at first. Thought he had like old scaly skin because he was almost 50. And anyway, that's probably why she went with other people. Just gotta scroll here. Bear with me. I just have so many conversations with Grok that I have to scroll through. Yeah, so she mentioned George Bush, Bill Clinton, Dick Cheney, Robert Byrd, various country music stars and religious leaders in her book. Sex abuse, pedophilia, and satanic ritual abuse against a massive list of high-profile figures. And so George Sr. also named in these new released files, possibly, again, involved with child sacrifice, some form of like cannibalism or anyway, things like that. And I strongly recommend people take a look at this stuff. I mean, if you can stomach it, it's absolutely disgusting. Again, don't look at the gross stuff, but again, people in high positions for many decades have been involved in these rings. And even with Brooke Shields, when she was a child, in what was it, Penthouse or Playgirl or whatever that friggin' magazine was, a lot of MK Ultra with those groups as well. The Transformation of America. Okay, so that was her book. Transformation of America, published in 1995, co-authored with Mark Phillips. And anyway, so I'm just going to get into my Instagram stories here. A lot, again, didn't share. But this was interesting because this is probably the biggest news. People are finally seeing how certain people within these groups, these elite billionaire, millionaire clubs, what they actually think of Christians, what they actually think of people that are not part of their group. Completely crazy. And again, I've been saying this for years. It's a small percentage of people within these groups, these religious groups, or they're trying to tie themselves to religious groups when they have no semblance of following those religions. They just exploit groups and separate themselves from these groups. Anyways, I hope I'm making sense to people. I'm trying not to get my YouTube videos removed. It's so hard because I'm on so many different accounts, and I'm already on 2 strikes, and I don't want to lose my account again. So Eric Mutzos, he said, didn't have Matt Walsh noticing on my 2026 bingo card. Make sure you watch until the very end. And yeah, this was very interesting. A good summary.
War between the Jews and the non-Jews. Jews presently winning. Now, by itself, you might think, well, that's some odd one-off humor. But actually, there was nothing one-off about it. Throughout this latest document dump, it becomes abundantly clear that Epstein harbored a deep disdain for Christians to a pathological degree. And many of his powerful associates shared that disdain, and some of his Christian associates went along with it. That's not a conspiracy theory or anti-Semitism or Nazism or anything like that. It's just true. So it's what's in the documents. And we can spend the next hour going through all the emails in which Epstein and his contacts openly mock and demean Christians using various slurs.
Been saying this
he
for
also
years.
expresses an overt preference for Jewish people many times without mincing words. For logistical reasons, we'll settle for just a few examples. There are many more, but here's a 2015 email in which Epstein advises the banker, Ariane de Rothschild, on how to build an advisory board. And he writes, quote, no diplomats, etc., not Africans, serious people with a strong finance operations reputation, not charity, preferable some Jews.
Super racist too.
And there's this email from somebody named Mark Fisher to Epstein in March of 2010, quote, thought about our conversation, remeditation. Actually, it's not that hard. Why? A Jewish soul has a very different structure, different ingredients, components, relates to its higher levels differently, as different higher levels relate.
1000% fake news. Saying that they're better at meditating and stuff like that. Like, there's like, are you better than monks? Are you better than people in India? Are you better than Buddhists? Are like better than Christians that meditate regularly? Like myself even. Just the nerve.
Brainwashing itself and other people in a different manner than a non-Jewish soul. So Jewish souls have a different structure, evidently, whatever that means exactly. But here's maybe the most quotable one that maybe you've seen quoted already. It begins with Epstein writing to his assistant in August of 2010, quote, Dubin, Dershowitz, Zuckerman all said yes to September 18th, Yom Kippur. Redemption sounds like a wrestling event. I need you to oversee. And then the assistant responds, is it going to be 100% Jew night? Even Perlman on Yum Yum has some goyim. I'm getting my media elite list fed X'd out for Saturday and will email some names. What about Charlie Rose? Love him. What about Jane Fonda, my new best friend? Nothing like an ex-Jew hater with a Jewish boyfriend to mix it up. Epstein then responds with, quote, no goyim in abundance, JP Morgan execs, brilliant wasps. But anyway, yes, Epstein wrote that there will be goyim in abundance. And in case you're not familiar, in this context, goyim is a slur directed at non-Jews to imply that they're inferior.
And tragically, this pattern keeps on happening. How about we all come together and say, let's stop murders? How about we all come together and say, let's stop rape? How about we all come together and say, let's stop attacking pedophiles? Let's stop attacking pedophiles.
There's
war between the Jews and the...
There's so much more that's not even named in this. Like, I could go on for days. I'm going to share actually another clip that I have not seen before from Candace Owens. So it's going to be extreme. I haven't seen it yet, but I want to see what she shares, because again, there's so much out there regarding like their just hate for Christians. Even in his interview, oh my God, Jeffrey Epstein, a disgusting, vile. No, I wouldn't even call him human, subhuman, whatever. Even when they're talking about Jesus Christ in this interview, the carpenter, and like completely friggin' dismisses it. Again, like this is what people within his group, these disgusting, vile human beings, people like myself have named now for years. This is what they think of people that they're exploiting. Ben Shapiro, a grifter for the same people. Mark Levin, same thing. They're just grifters, and they're supporting disgusting, vile human beings. Again, even with like the media being involved, I've said how biased media is, and propaganda, and the Hasbro, etc., and people that have infiltrated the U.S. They're like their mainstream media as well, and people supporting certain parties, billionaires. I've named the friggin' names, and no one's got arrested yet. Maybe someday. My dog. Anyway, that wasn't all I shared. Come on. Let me see here. Can I go back? Okay, yeah. So this is Brandy Cruz. Anyways, Cruz News. Sounds like lives in CBC for the last 10 years plus. They arrest people asking questions here. So I'm just commenting on this post because you're seeing more and more censorship
I've been
of what people are classifying as political dissidents, people that are asking questions that are against the bullshit narrative that are going on. These people are getting arrested. These people are getting refused access to even have discussions and ask questions, even journalists. And it's just going to get even worse. And Canada is actually even worse than the US, as shocking as this is. This is why I give examples, because our mainstream media, they don't share any of this stuff.
Covering the Washington State Legislature for 15 years. And for the first time ever, I was just denied a press pass by Democrats that control the State House of Representatives. Here's the letter they sent me. And they say the craziest part is they denied my press pass because I've taken a public position that I don't think girls should have to compete against boys, which really isn't even something that should be open for debate. It's absolutely insane. You know, I give my opinion. I'm an independent media, but there's a reason for that. When I left my job in TV news in 2021, it was because I realized that you had all these newsrooms that were not doing.
This just brought something else up, because again, there's so much, and maybe Candace will mention it, but even targeting the LGBTQ plus IA community, Jeffrey Epstein, and saying that they were going to be like, don't, this is just like not a quote, but essentially saying that they're going to like the sacrificial lambs, like the target. And it worked.
What they were supposed to be doing and holding the party in power accountable. I like to think that I'm a voice for a large swath of Washingtonians who don't feel like their interests and their concerns are being well represented by the coverage they're getting of politics from legacy newsrooms. And I think one of the worst things about this is the legacy reporters aren't standing up for independent media. I'm not the only one who got a press pass denied this week. My friend Jonathan Cho got his press pass denied. My friend Ari Hoffman got his press pass denied. So they've denied in the course of a week virtually everyone who's going to go down there and challenge what they're doing, you know, from pushing through an unconstitutional income tax to trying to silence voter initiatives on girls' sports. But all of that aside, I believe that everyone who works in media, whether it's independent media, podcaster, blogger, YouTuber, influencer, I believe that you should be able to go and question people in positions of power for your viewers and readers and listeners. I've advocated for a more modern policy for press access that includes more people, not less, because the more people that are down there asking questions, the harder life is going to be for the people in positions of power. And so we should be a united front. Everybody in the media space should be working together to get more access, not less. And instead, legacy newsrooms are conspiring with Democrats to keep people like me out. I'm one of the longest serving political reporters in the state. There are very few people left in the state who have the institutional knowledge I do about the bills and the background of all of these laws and who can explain it. And because I give my informed opinion to hundreds of thousands of Washingtonians who count on it, they want to shut me out. That's what it's about. Legacy media wants to shut me out because they're trying to protect their failing newsrooms. Democrats want to shut me out because I actually go down and ask them some difficult questions and challenge them on lies or mistruths that they tell. So, you know, we're not going to let this stand. I mean, we're exploring what our options are, but to me, you either stand for press freedom or you don't.
And they don't. Oh, this happened in
the whole time.
Australia, I believe. Anyway, a young hero who saved his family. But anyways, I'll let them talk because this is recounting the situation. And Talking about God.
You know, just keep on swimming. Just keep on swimming. I don't think it was actually me, did I? It was God the whole time. I kept on praying. I kept on praying. And I said to God, I'll get baptized. I'll get baptized and all of that. And I went to church on Sunday.
This boy and his family were stranded at sea, and he swam 4 kilometers to land to save them. Listen to what Ozpil says. This is what happened. Your family is stranded at sea, drifting away from land. It's getting dark and cold. You send it and swim 4 kilometers to shore. You collapse on the beach, basically hallucinating from exhaustion. There's people. You think, thank goodness. You ask them for help. They're all foreigners. None of them can understand you. None of them help him. He has to run then 2 kilometers for a phone. Insane. They stood around watching this boy having swam and collapsed on the beach, not helping him. But
Anyway,
listen to some of the story.
I just keep swimming. I do breaststroke, I do freestyle, I do survival backstroke. At one point when I was doing breaststroke, I was looking, I can actually see underwater, which I couldn't do before. I just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
Fair play to him.
And then finally I just made it to shore, and I hit the bottom of the beach and I just collapsed. And then after that I had to sprint 2 kilometers to go get to the phone. And then when I got to the phone, there was a lot of foreign people on the beach, so I couldn't really get much help. And so I ran to the phone and I called 000, and I had to call 000 police. I said I need helicopters, I need planes, I need boats. My family's out at sea.
And it's everything goes through your head as one. Did I make the wrong decision by sending him because I knew he was the strongest and he could do it? I would have never went because I wouldn't have left the kids at sea, so I had to send somebody. There was no boats, there was nothing that we can get hold of. And then as it got darker, yeah, I thought there's no one coming to save us. This is us. And we were cold, we were shaking.
Austin did an incredible thing. He saved your lives. How do you feel?
Oh, I can't. There's no bigger word to describe him other than proud. Like, I can't. I'm speechless at his efforts.
That the whole time, you know, just keep on swimming. Just keep on swimming. I don't think it was actually me, did I? It was God the whole time. I kept on praying.
Yeah. God bless him. Again, there's just so much news that I didn't even share. And I did mention Patty Hadju because, again, she's a traitor to Canada, even before COVID, but especially during COVID. No idea about the reality of the friggin' world, and still, again, in cabinet, somehow, disgusting human being. And Pierre Poilievre, he was having an interview. I think it was in Parliament. And these clowns are walking behind him, and they're like literally just like catty at him, like Karen. She's a Karen. And I've done videos on her for years, by the way. Like, look at what she's actually done to Canada. Not for our own good. And she's a grifter. But talking about getting to work. Like, when have you worked for Canada, Patty? You're there literally for yourself and your grifter friends. And I wish you would get jail. Anyways. And Bill Blair, I'm going to get into him as well. I've done videos on him as well. An absolute traitor to Canada. And they're like the people like this woman right here. And it's good to see that law enforcement are standing up to these clowns. We need more of that in Canada. We needed people to stand up to Bill Blair. We needed people to stand up to Patty Hadju and Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland and Marco Mendicino and these clowns. But they didn't.
The Seattle Police Union told Socialist Mayor Katie Wilson to shove it over her anti-ICE order. The union essentially told her, "We'd help, but we're tied up rearresting the guys that you freed yesterday." Seattle's mayor had issued orders to local police directing them to investigate, verify, and document activity by ICE for potential prosecution. The Seattle Police Officers Guild president responded to Wilson's order by posting this on X. Toothless virtue signaling rhetoric like this has already cost 2 people their lives. The concept of pitting 2 armed law enforcement agencies against each other is ludicrous and will not happen. Toothless virtue signaling, the most accurate description of Seattle's government since they tried to fight crime with a mural, a hashtag, and body odor.
I don't know why he had to mention the body odor stuff, but again, not my video. That's cabinet. That's the House of Commons, like most of the people in there. Is the just the complete the toothless virtue signaling that actually causes way more harm than good. And yeah, there are corrupt, dirty cops and people within the legal system, especially in Ottawa and Toronto, like these areas, Washington. We need to have law enforcement and the justice system hold these people accountable and start making the arrests. It's not comfortable. Blue on blue is not comfortable, but again, like arrests need to be made, and it's already starting. Finally. And I'll get into that. Oh, this was funny, but no, of course it doesn't. All right, I'll get into my ex. Maybe I shared it there. I put some funny things out there as well, just to break it up. So this was from Sam Cooper. Illegal biolabs in Las Vegas and California linked to Canadian Chinese national with alleged military civil fusion ties. 330 million Canadian fraud judgment. And there's more. And this is from Sam Cooper. And anyway, he does a whole article on it. I'll share it. Illegal biolabs in Vegas and California linked to Chinese okay, so we already started. So FBI and Las Vegas police execute search warrants at properties linked to Bay Jesse Zoo, already facing federal charges over a Reedley biolab containing samples of HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria. This was posted 2 days ago. Okay, so this just gives some of the photos. Blood and fluids found in 2 of the 30 refrigerators and deep freezers of the Reedley biolab. Figures 5, 6, and 7. Bags labeled MDMA, coca, and met found in freezers in the Reedley biolab. Coca and met presumably mean cocaine and methamphetamine, respectively. Other bags found are labeled THC and amp, likely meaning amphetamine. Source city of Reedley. And there's been at least 9 Toronto police officers, like that's what I was going to share before, that have been arrested and linked to drug trafficking and other crimes, and working with, again, criminals within Canada. And 30 plus arrests right now, not all law enforcement, obviously, but again, like the more you look into this and look into Ottawa, you're going to see it. I did share it, but again, it's just not showing up on my my Instagram yet, and I don't know why. This is from Donald Best. Bill Blair should not be rewarded with a position as High Commissioner to the UK. So apparently he's resigned his cabinet position, but again, good friggin' riddance. But this guy's, again, we're getting rewarded. He's already stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from us a year for his grift. And yeah, now he's getting to go to the UK in a High Commissioner position. Friggin' get bent. And so this is lawyer Bathsheba Vanderberg, a post that she had written, and I will share it, about Bill Blair. It's on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is so far left that even I'm on account number 3 on this, but I had shared that post from her. And then I also posted Bill Blair from 2010 from the G20 summits. He should have been fired then. But instead, during COVID and during the Freedom Convoy, he was a emergency management or whatever you want to call it, but within cabinet. And again, was a key enabler in the Emergency Act being illegally and unlawfully declared. And he was a chief of police in Toronto during, anyway, I'll talk about that. But Bill Blair should not be rewarded with a position as High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. He does not have the right profile. He does not represent Canadian values. He does not represent respect for human rights and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. He does not represent respect for our judiciary. On January 16th, 2026, the Federal Court of Appeal ruled that the Liberal government, again, breached the Charter rights of Canadians and acted without lawful authority when they invoked the Emergency Act in February of 2022 on Valentine's Day, because they're assholes. Anyways, which resulted in the unlawful freezing of hundreds of Canadians' bank accounts and the brutal arrests and deportations of many peaceful protesters. Bill Blair has offered no apology. There has been no accountability or respect shown for 2 levels of court's rulings finding the government's actions unlawful. Oh, I was going to say something else about this. Oh, yeah, that big lawsuit, mass tort, whatever you want to call it, in Ottawa, with those friggin' grifters trying to get like hundreds of millions of dollars, taxpayers' money, because of the impact of the Freedom Convoy, and even admitting that they were throwing eggs from rooftops, like from these like high-rise friggin' buildings, apartment complexes, and again, like I will reiterate, the 911 calls that were around that time was in response to far left radicals, locals, and people coming in from out of country even, that were there to sabotage agitators, rioters, protesters. But again, like what you're seeing in Minneapolis and all these other places, like it's the same friggin' groups of people. They've been paid and doing this for years. They've gone to hundreds of protests at this point. So anyone saying that there's not paid protesters in 2026 with all the proof, like, I'm sorry, you have lost the plot on life, respectfully speaking. And so there's more I can even talk about on that, but I'll leave it. So when asked about the invocation, and so the reason why in Ottawa people are still calling people that were part of the Freedom Convoy terrorists and all this stuff, because media here, they're also getting money, and the lawyers here are getting a lot of money again for trying to sue people that were involved in the Freedom Convoy, with these grifters that are lying about like how their lives were impacted and stuff like that. That is such fake friggin' news. And again, even on the record saying that they were throwing eggs at vehicles from high places, and that could be lethal, by the way, you dumb idiots. So yeah, you guys were the ones that were the agitators and the aggressors, not the people that were trying to fight for the rights of Canadians in a peaceful way. And this is what people in Ottawa are celebrating because they're so brainwashed. They're not realizing that people are lying about what happened and embellishing still because they want to make millions of dollars off of taxpayers. So well done, Ottawa. You're getting so brainwashed by a few people that, again, are liars, grifters, and want to take more of your money. And the media also involved in that. David Cochrane, Rosemary Barton, traitors to Canada, completely ignorant about the reality of the world, and they don't want to be proven wrong. So this is what I mean. They're shutting down any information or data that's been like newly released, and they have for years, because again, they're the ones that were reporting it at the time, and they're still in these positions with bonuses and salary raises and stuff like that, and they don't want to be wrong, right? They are wrong, but they just don't. They think that if they don't report it, then other people won't know, and they're right, because people are still just watching one source of media, state funded. Mostly the boomers, and people that are saying like, oh, it's people 50 and over that are voting mostly liberal. No, it's 60 and over, ladies and gentlemen. And the people in my family and my friends, I don't know at this point anyone that voted liberal in the last election. I know people that voted NDP. I know people that voted Bloc. I know people that voted Conservative. I don't know anyone that voted Green or Liberal. Anyway, so January 23rd, 2024, the federal court found that the Liberal government unlawfully invoked the Emergency Act and that they violated charter rights, including unlawfully freezing over hundreds of Canadian bank accounts. Again, like 2 years ago, even. The Liberal government appealed the decision. So I've talked about that. And then I just added, Bill Blair has been a disgrace to Canadians since 2010, at least. And then I gave this post that I'll share. That was a good article on him. And they just get rewarded for bad behavior. It's such a joke. Chief Blair must step down or be fired. OFL president says G20 police accountability must start at the top. And this, I don't even know when this was posted, but it would have been years ago, likely. Let me see here if I can see it before I get into it. So 2015 period, probably, because I'm seeing the other ones here. So yeah, so over 10 years ago. I'm thinking it might be 2015. Anyway, Ontario Federation of Labour, OFL President Sid Ryan, today responded to a damning report on the police use of excessive force during the 2010 G20 summit in Toronto, by calling for the resignation of Toronto Police Chief Bill Blair. This is posted 11 years ago. Dan Dix from Press for Truth was there on the ground during this. And again, he can show proof, again, of what they were doing and on his video. So he's on YouTube and Rumble. And he'll also be at Anacapulco, anyways, this month, representing Canadians. He's gone to Davos and stuff like that as well. I've talked about him before. So anyways, how much more proof of gross police misconduct do we need before action is taken to hold the force to account? Demanded OFL President Sid Ryan. We saw it with our own eyes. It was reported in the media. It was documented by Amnesty International. And now the province's police complaints watchdog has confirmed it. The orders came from the top down to the rank and file to treat peaceful protesters as terrorists and to suspend civil liberties. This was written 11 years ago. And this is why I was saying during the Freedom Convoy, I'm like, oh, fuck, like Bill Blair and these fucking clowns are literally the ones going to be deciding on like how to like respond to this. I'm like, we're screwed. We got to call this stuff out. So again, this was not new. Like, I'm not a prophet or whatever you want to freaking call it, or a mind reader or a psych. No, I was going off of like previous actions that were still, there was no accountability. There was reward. There was promotion. The report of the Office of the Independent Police Review Director, Jerry McNeely, released yesterday, confirmed that police made unlawful arrests, charter rights infringements, and violations of prisoner rights during an unprecedented campaign of excessive force. And again, listen to Dan Dix and his reports on this. It will blow your friggin' mind, and mainstream media will not touch this because they're gross. And I hope they get defunded. And I will be a part of that. When they are up for their contract renegotiations next year, I will be submitting interventions. I will be templating interventions for people to submit. I will peacefully go there if they want me to speak as to like why CBC needs to be defunded, or they need to change their bias narrative effective immediately, and go from there. And if enough people do it, and again, it has to be peaceful, it has to be people that can articulate their points well and provide proof of their biases over the years and how it's destroyed Canada. And but again, it's so corrupt at the top. They just, again, there's been no friggin' arrests or forced resignations or people being fired. Bill Blair, High Commissioner to the UK, are you friggin' kidding me? He is not a Canadian. Anyway, this stuff just fires me up because it's just so ridiculous to me that, again, it's like Groundhog Day every friggin' day for over a decade. And the people that should be hired in key positions, they're getting completely turned away, and people that don't deserve these positions are getting these positions, and they're highly underqualified and incompetent. But they're pushing the woke DEI agenda. Okay, so several other labor and community groups work closely with the Toronto Police Service for weeks to ensure that the mass rally of 30,000 peaceful protesters as a family-friendly event. However, McNeely's investigation found that senior officers deemed legitimate protesters to be terrorists, and that officers were led to believe that the crowd would likely become violent. There was little attempt to prepare them to support peaceful protesters. Later in the day, the police swept into the designated peaceful protest zone with truncheons swinging, endangering peaceful protesters and their children, and embarked on a mass arrest that set a new standard in peacetime detentions. And I could go on from there, where they were actually canalized and in these areas for hours, freezing, elderly, etc., and children. And it's just absolutely repulsive when again, look at Dan Dix, his videos on this. I've done videos on this. Over 1,100 people were arrested and detained, nearly all of them on charges with absolutely no merit. People were even picked up going home or going to restaurants or were not even involved in this. Random citizens were arrested in unlawful outdoor prisons. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. And it wasn't even just law enforcement doing this either, by the way. Okay, the people with these black uniforms, the snatch and grabs that they were doing. What the heck? Like, what was even that? What was even that? Right? So again, knowing this before even the Freedom Convoy and then calling out January 6th being a Fedsurrection and stuff like that, I literally thought that there was a chance that I was going to be labeled a friggin' terrorist and that I'd be friggin' shot on fucking sight. Anyways, but it didn't happen, obviously. And again, I was a little paranoid at the time because of other things that were going on, because of what I was sharing, getting targeted by the blue. Because I was in Ottawa. 95% of people vaccinated, and I was one of the ones that, somehow managed to not buy into all the fucking pressure. I did destroy my career, though, in my personal life. And I had to move, and anyway. To date, only 2 officers have faced criminal charges for these assaults, and the 100 officers who removed their name tags to disguise their identities have only received minor sanctions, said Ryan. Chief Blair has erected a wall of silence to protect his officers, but he cannot hide from accountability behind a thin blue line. Well, it turns out he can, because this was 11 years ago. I was personally stopped and questioned by police twice in the same day. I personally know many others who faced much worse, but none of these charter violations can go unanswered, said Ryan. Blair perpetuated a fraud upon the public, ordered his officers to suspend civil liberties, and turned Toronto into a police state. And crisis actors and role players were there and staged and planned events with media there, staging scenes, allowing this to happen for hours when it should have been immediately responded to. I'm talking about the police officer like fire. Anyway, very interesting. Blair perpetuated a fraud upon the public, ordered his officers to suspend. Yeah, okay, so he has forever damaged the reputation of Toronto police force and tarnished his own badge. Justice will only be served when Blair has been replaced. Okay, so the Ontario Federation of Labour, OFL, represents 54 unions and 1 million workers in Ontario. And then it gave the information. Anyway, I thought that was very interesting and nicely summarized as someone that knows that situation well and has been covering it for literally years, even before the Freedom Convoy. And again, I hate that it sounds like a brag or anything like that. It is not. It's just frustrating that I've been trying to share this information with the highest levels of government, and that has got me to be on the blacklist, the not hire list, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous. All right, I'll look at more X stuff and then go into my Jordan Maxwell videos because they're so interesting. Let me see here. Those were the 2 big ones. Again, I share a lot of things with people, but I don't post as much as I share. Yeah, this is the girl that wrote the article. What else here? No, okay. Oh yeah, before I get into Jordan Maxwell, I'm going to get into Candace, what she has discovered. And again, I haven't watched this yet, so sometimes it's a risk. And this is Jimmy Dore. Again, I'm not agreeing with everything that's being shared by these accounts in the last few months, but there's still a lot of useful and interesting information out of these some of these episodes that are very useful for people investigating or researching. So you got to give credit where credit.
Yes, there is a cabal of Zionist Jews who is essentially acting as a shadow government, and Epstein is clearly evidence of that.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems you've said it. It's a toxic culture, meaning the whole Israeli project it was founded on a genocide. It was founded on the Nakba. It was founded on stealing land that was given to them by an occupying force, the UK, that didn't have the right to give that land to anybody.
Right.
And it's what's funny to me is as soon as the UK acknowledged that the Palestinians had a right to that land, they immediately sued the UK for giving that land to Israel, which is awesome. But here's what Candace Owens had to say. And I just want to get your response to it.
Sure.
Because the book that we are currently reading is so on time right now. Quite literally, we're completing this book on Friday, Sigmund Freud and the Jewish Mystical Tradition. After having read previously The Assault on Truth, those people were not surprised at all because I took you through it. What Sigmund Freud and his B'nai B'rith Freemason boys actually believe about you, what they believe, how they have accomplished things, this false dialectic, their means to accomplish running Western society, breaking apart Christian empires. Yes, he hated Christians. It's a fact. He wrote about it extensively. He hated Catholics. And yes, they perform rituals. That is not an imagination. It's not a conspiracy. The only conspiracy are those that are colluding to hide those facts. And now we can really stick our noses down at them. And no, I want to be clear. This is not Judaism. This isn't your grandma's Judaism. It's a cult mysticism. That's the way that it's able to move through seemingly all the faiths, right? Aleister Crowley. Well, how could you have the Star of David once upon a time? What was it, before 1914? That was the flag of Morocco. That's weird. That's not a Jewish nation. What does it actually symbolize? Occult mysticism. That's why it's on the cover of Aleister Crowley's books. If you're going to perform magic and rituals. And yes, sorry guys, got to wake up. It's a Monday. We got to get you there. They deem children to be a necessary part of their initiation rituals. This I'm going to read from you is actually a direct quotation from Sigmund Freud. Okay? Person that was hailed as a hero. We were in high school and middle school, and he's the father of modern psychology. Yeah, guys, that's kind of the problem. That is kind of the problem, actually. Anyway, to contextualize this, he's writing a letter to his best friend, also the person he was having a gay affair with, who mentored him, Wilhelm Fliess. Now, I should skip to the part and tell you Wilhelm Fliess also molested his own son, Robert Fliess. Robert Fliess spoke about that when he got older. But Sigmund Freud is writing to Wilhelm Fliess after he gets initiated, because they wait until you're 36 to initiate you into the occult mystic Kabbalah. Okay, I'm going to read you what he writes. He's referring to a patient who he previously hadn't understood before his initiation, who came in, and she spoke to him about what she experienced when she was a child. He writes, imagine I obtained a scene, which means a patient was speaking to him about this, about the circumcision of a girl, the cutting of a piece of her labia, sucking up the blood, following which the child was given a piece of the skin to eat. He then fast forwards and he says, I dream, therefore, of a primeval devil religion whose rites are carried on secretly, and I understand the harsh therapy of the witches' judges. And then he speaks about this. Freud is implying here, by the way, this we are so anti-Semitism proof. This book was written by a guy who was the director of the Freud archives. He read Freud's unpublished works and determined that, yeah, Freud knew that the children were being abused in Vienna. And he created a social science, psychology, to help gaslight those children. This is what you got to be aware of. This is all real. It's not imagined. These are not kooky people on the internet that are telling you this. Quite the opposite. And then this guy, Jason Massone, who writes this book, writes that Freud is implying here that the Sabbats were real events, part of a ritualized religion in which sexual perversions were acted out. So he was aware that this was happening. And in case you are not aware, Sigmund Freud, the background story there is wild. All right, he was once an outcast in the very tight-knit, perverted psychology club in Vienna because he told the truth. He went to the morgue. He examined children who had died after they were horrifically murdered and sexually assaulted. And then he also saw patients who were children who were still alive, who were telling him these stories about what they lived through. And he had determined after speaking to these children that they were all telling the truth. And so he gets ostracized from the psychology community. He's like, no, this is actually happening. And it's also incestuous. And they go, get out of here. You can't be with us. You can't publish his paper. Oh no, what would the Goyim think? He actually did publish his findings. And like I said, the pervert turned on him. Then remarkably, at the age of 36, he partakes in a ritual during which he's welcomed into the club, and he changes his mind and he writes to Wilhelm Fliess that he now understands. Okay, so that's what I just read to you. Like he now understands what is happening. And that is why you need to wake up and recognize that this is what is happening in our world. And what he's referring to are ancient pagan festivals and ceremonies that center around the earth's cycles of death and rebirth. And so to make this extra clear to you, we are not in a war between monotheistic faiths. The people that we are fighting are effectively pagan gypsies who have been wearing the cloak of Judaism, I would say, since the fall of the missing Khazarian Empire.
And Semites. This is languages. This is a group of languages. Ethiopians, Middle Eastern, Jewish language groups, Semites, and even AI. This is language. This is coding, languages.
The Khazars.
That's it.
Were a nomadic Turkic tribe who adopted Judaism in the 8th century. Now, Freud, this part is important. We're going to get to what's in Epstein's emails because, man, if I didn't tell you guys the truth, Freud himself was a racist, okay? He was a part, like I said, of the Freemason group B'nai B'rith, which had, if you don't know what B'nai B'rith is, you got to wake up, especially if you're in America, okay? That lodge, it's Jewish supremacists. They had everything to do with the Civil War in America. They excel at creating the false dialectic, the North versus the South, the left versus the right. Ulysses S. Grant notoriously expelled Jews from his military district, Tennessee, Mississippi, Kentucky. You think he was just like what, another white supremacist? Everyone's just
Ireland and Scotland too, I believe, but Ireland also expelled, interestingly enough, the Jews a few centuries ago.
The white another they would have called him a white supremacist, or he was anti-Semitic. Everybody's just anti-Semitic. No, this had everything to do with what they were cooking up at these lodges, B'nai B'rith. That then subsequently became the ADL after the ritualistic murder of a Catholic girl named Mary Fagan. There is no hiding that anymore. I don't care if Dennis Prager is going to write another letter and say, that's not true. This case is not real. It's happened so many times during the same dates, the same holiday season, all throughout history, that it is getting ridiculous to not acknowledge that this is true and this is real. And the Epstein files create an opportunity for us to discuss this, to hear the way they speak about us behind closed doors, exactly how Sigmund Freud spoke. It's racist, right? I want to make it clear that this is, for them, a religious philosophy, a racist perspective that we are goyim, meaning cattle that are meant to be herded and ruled over. I said this at the end of last year. I said, this is how I am being treated because I don't listen to them. Hence their psychotic, obsessive, and frankly, their evil manner in which they have confronted me simply trying to move on in my life after realizing I don't want to work for Zionist psychopaths. I just don't want to do that if that's cool.
All right, so I'll stop it there. Now, let me ask. Now, Kurt, you followed it. When she said all that stuff, I'm watching it. I'm like, "Bo, I don't understand anything she's saying about
leaving something out
about the mystic Jewish and how it gets into all the religions, which is what you've been telling me about these Christian people.
Dialectic.
Yeah, and so the false dialectic of the north, south, left, right. That's
what Hegel was into, and she's right about Freud. That's 100% correct. She keeps stressing Catholic girl was killed. So this is the thing this is what I would ask her about. That's all true what she's saying. The Vatican's in on it. Did you not know that? You're an adult convert to Catholicism. They are in on it. The New World Order of the Rose, that's Jesuits. They're all in on it. So don't worry. It's not just them. And the Khazarian thing, so here's the actual story of that. Some Jewish guy was attempting to prove it's a religion, not a race. And that's where that comes from a guy well-intentioned trying to separate the religion from the race, not understanding the Zionists want it to be a race because they need it to be. So this is the part, like I said, I would ask her good questions, because when she came on, remember, she thought Soviets invented concentration camps, but no, that was the British in South Africa. And I have seen her assimilate information once she learns it. But again, if you're Catholic, Bannon, same thing. He throws out specifically Catholic all the time. The Vatican's in on it. What are you guys talking about? Do you think the Vatican's not in on it? You're right. That's horrible. Your own thing is in on it. Do you not get it? I don't understand why they leave this out.
So let me throw it back to you, Keaton. What do you make of that when you hear that?
Why does he think, though, that we have been asking for, I don't know, a couple hundred years for the separation of church and state for that reason, and for the Pope not to be the absolute ruler for Christianity? These are the reasons: to believe in God, to be a Christian, again, whatever the denomination. I seem to just, align much more with Presbyterians than the other denominations. And so anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that.
And it makes whoever seems to be in charge of Judaism, it seems like what she's saying, and correct me if you didn't hear it this way,
Muhammad, I believe,
that the whoever's in charge of Judaism is like a mystic, and they're doing that mystic Judaism, which isn't Judaism, and they're steering the conversation, and that's why it can get in all different religions, and they have this supremacist view, and that's how they talk about us behind closed doors. What do you say to that?
Well, Catholics take communion, so I don't really see the difference. I think this is all kind of overblown. I'm just kidding.
You're right.
No, I'm just joking. No, I mean, I like you, Jimmy. I had never heard any of that, so I had a kind of similar reaction.
I know I'm cutting them off, but just because they talk about Freemasons and occult groups and the Hellfire Club and Moose Incorporated Inc. and these older, like the Elk Club and these again occult groups or fraternities that were that prominent people were part of, like including Benjamin Franklin and George Washington and other people I've named as well, and but Freemasons anyways. And so the historical evidence that strongly supports the timeline for Freemasonry and where the lodges started and who was involved in them at first. So Scotland, Ireland, France, and then England. So people are trying to say that 1717 Freemason Lodge, the first one in England. No. And I've done videos on this, but anyway. In fact, the French lodge you mentioned, 1688, Jacobite Lodge, was likely formed by an Irish regiment in exile. Excuse me. Here's the chronological breakdown that confirms your suspicion. Scotland, the origin, date 1599, evidence, the Lodge of Edinburgh, number 1, has written minutes dating back to 1599. Status, this is an undisputed birthplace of the lodge structure. Ireland, the bridge, date 1680s, evidence, 1681, the Lurgan chair is an artifact found in Ireland with Masonic symbols dated to 1681. 1688, a student at Trinity College Dublin, John Jones, gave a speech referencing a fraternity of Freemasons active at the college. So at least by that point. The connection, Ireland adopted the Scottish system very early, likely through the close exchange of peoples across the Irish Sea. France, the export, date 1688, the Saint Germain Lodge. The twist, the first lodge in France was almost certainly an Irish military lodge. When King James II fled to France, he was protected by his Royal Irish Regiment, later the Regiment of Walsh. It is believed these Irish soldiers, who had already been exposed to Masonry in Ireland, Scotland, founded the Lodge Parfaite Égalité in 1688 in the French court. Perfectly legal. You are correct. The lineage is fact. Scotland invented it. Ireland adopts it. France receives it. Okay, so then how many Freemasons were Jewish during this time? My friggin' YouTube video is going to get removed. Anyway, because even just saying that and explaining things and just sharing my information on AI has gotten my videos removed. So very, very few. During the specific era, as we discussed, the early Jacobite period, late 1600s, and the formation of the first Grand Lodges, early 1700s, Jewish membership was statistically negligible. The vast majority of early Freemasons were Christians, Protestant in England, Scotland, Catholic in France. The confusion often comes from the fact that Freemasonry uses Hebrew symbols, Solomon's Temple, passwords, Kabbalah, leading many to assume the members themselves were Jewish. Here is the breakdown of the numbers and the timeline. The early band, 1600s to 1717. In the early Scottish and Irish lodges, the number of Jewish members was 0. Reason? Early Masonry was explicitly Christian until it was infiltrated. But anyways, the old charges, the rules of the guild, required members to be true to God and the Holy Church. You had to swear oaths on the New Testament. Yeah, so not a lot of Jewish people would be doing that. The Jacobites, the exiled Scots in France, who you asked about earlier, were devout Catholics supporting a Catholic king. They would not have admitted Jews. The turning point, 1723 and 1732. The door only opened after the formation of the Grand Lodge of England. 1723, the new constitutions, written by James Anderson, changed the requirement from Christianity to simply that religion in which all men agree, deism. And we do talk about, again, people that wrote the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, a few that were deists and not Catholics. And anyways, this technically allowed Jews to join. 1732, the first recorded admission of a Jewish Mason in history occurred in London. His name was Edward Rose. The reaction, so again, this is another reason why people in Ireland and Scotland did not like the freaking Brits. There's so many freaking reasons. But anyway, the reaction was controversial. When Rose was initiated, other members complained, asking if they now had to feast with a Jew on the Sabbath, meaning did they have to change their day of worship from Sunday to Saturday? The exception, the Caribbean, the Stephen Moray connection. While Jews were rare in European lodges, they were much more prominent in the Scottish Rite that developed in the Caribbean, so Haiti and Jamaica in the mid-1700s. Haiti. Yeah, look at what's still going on there. Oh my God. Anyway, Stephen Moray, a key figure in developing the high degrees, 25 degrees at the time. He was likely of Huguenot, French Protestant origin, but he worked closely with Jewish merchants in the West Indies. The spread, because the likely fled there, by the way, because the Huguenots were attacked, and this was even by papal decree or approval and support to because they were Protestant and not Roman Catholic. And they did not believe that the Pope should be their leader. They wanted it to be the king. Anyways, discussions about that as well. I don't think a king or a Pope should be the ones that are, these divine people that encompass God and speaking as if they're gods. They're not. They're fallible, just like all humans. I go on all these tangents. Confusion, Kabbalah, verse 2. There were so few Jews. Why is conspiracy theory of Judeo-Masonry so old? The rituals, the high degrees of Masonry, especially the Scottish Rite, are obsessed with the Old Testament, the Hebrew language, and Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah. The reality, these rituals were written by Christian mystics, like the Rosicrucians, who were fascinated by Hebrew texts. Not even just Hebrew. I hate that it was like Romans, the Greeks, the Canaanites, the Sumerians. Like there's so much from even Christianity that has been adopted and reinterpreted within the Bible from more ancient stories. And I've talked about Mithras and Dionysus and Horus and Krishna and you friggin' name it. Anyway, so maybe that's all I'll talk about. It's almost over anyways. I hope this is interesting to people. It is interesting to me. Here we go. It's almost.
But I knew Kurt did. I knew Kurt knew everything.
Sure. I blather to everybody I meet every time I meet him. Time I meet him.
So go ahead, Keaton.
No, but I mean, the conclusion she draws at the end, I mean, I have no reason to doubt it because whatever the backstory and, whatever parsing you want to do, when you talk about, has Judaism been hijacked by these, pagan mystics? I mean, that could all very well be true. I have no reason to doubt anything she's saying. I don't know enough to rebut that. I have no interest in rebutting that. I just have to plead ignorance on that. But however you want to parse it.
Yeah, she's right. And there are people that claim to be Jewish who have inverted the 10 Commandments. And I've talked about this. I forget what his friggin' name is. But even famous celebrities and singers of the past, was it Leonard Cohen, I think, was one of them. And saying that in order to go to heaven or whatever you want to call it or be a god, you have to commit, you have to do the opposite of the 10 Commandments. And again, this is absolutely, respectfully speaking, bastardizing the friggin' religion, definitely misinterpreting it, and definitely not aligned with Christianity.
It is undeniably true to anyone of fair mind that, yeah, the way they talk about the rest of the world is obviously extremely racist. They obviously do view non-Jews as cattle to be ruled over. I mean, that is an unmistakable conclusion. Yeah, I mean, it's just an unmistakable conclusion to draw. And so, I mean, however that gets parsed or negotiated within Judaism, is I won't say it's irrelevant, but its relevance is sort of secondary to the main point, which is that yes, there is a cabal of Jews who, in this case, of course, I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was obviously a Zionist Jew, right? Who, yes, do view the world as theirs to dominate. And there's absolutely an attitude of entitlement and an attitude of supremacy. And I would say Jewish supremacy is really the tip of the spear. And then, they kind of drag, some like white supremacist, anti-Arab racists along with them to make their case for them. Like you could look at a guy like Bill Maher. Bill Maher is not a Jewish supremacist. Bill Maher is an atheist, but he's clearly an anti-Arab racist who then sees Zionism as a vehicle for hegemonic Western expansion.
He
And
likes black
so he'll
hookers,
back-
though. He's not totally racist.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I say anti-Arab racist. Yeah, that's a key point. Yeah. So then guys like him sort of glom onto it, right? And so it does take on a sort of white supremacist character. I mean, when you look at what is Israel, it is a Western, it is a Western sort of puppet state in an Eastern and Arab region.
England,
so
England.
obviously, yeah. So
Soft
obviously there is an interest for Western chauvinists and white supremacists to back Israel. But no, the tip of the spear at this moment, at least, as evidenced clearly in these files, is yes, a Jewish supremacist streak. Wherever that comes from is, I'm not going to say it's not an important point, but it is a tangential point. The main point here is that, yes, there is a cabal of Zionist Jews who is essentially acting as a shadow government. And Epstein is clearly evidence of that when you look at what's in these files.
Okay, cabal, the word cabal, you know where we get that from? Kabbalah. We get the term cabal from Kabbalah. All of them are into it. Kabbalah is not even Jewish. It's from Babylon. It's old like Egyptian magic. That's why Crowley that she mentioned, they're all into it. The pagan stuff she's talking about, that's what the Mary shit is. When they brought Mary worship into that, they're all on the same team, those things. And here's what I know a bunch of people, not Keaton, I just friends of mine in New York that are secular materialists that don't believe in cuckoo caca things. Well, just so you know, the most important people in the world do believe. They believe deeply. So all that mystical horse shit, and it's so fucking annoying hearing Harry Potter shit is like the reality of the world. I really hate that the most. They believe in it deeply. Epstein thought you know what they were looking for in their submarine by his island was Atlantis. Stupid Ghislaine Maxwell used the name Janet Atlantis as like her fake name, and she was that's what that temple imagery is. They all think that, and that goes back a long way. That's what the founding fathers came here for, because they thought it was the new Atlantis. I personally hate that shit. I hate saying the word Atlantis. I hate things with Atlantic in it, to be honest with you, like the transatlantics, all that stupid shit. But I want to ask every scientist I meet, most of whom went to Epstein Island, by the way. I know you think there's no God and you don't believe in that, but you know all the people that pay for you to do what you do, they believe in the goofiest shit I ever heard in my life. Beyond any Christianity or Judaism or anything, they believe in wacky shit. The real rich people. So why are you like a chump at mid-level with your secular bullshit?
No, I mean, look, as far as all that's concerned, like, yeah, I mean, I buy that 100%. I mean, I buy what you're saying about them. Not that I buy what they buy, but yeah.
I don't think they're from Atlantis. I think they might be lying between you and me.
All right, but I mean, it seems pretty obvious based on what's in these files that this is, yeah. I mean, this is what all of the most ridiculed conspiracy theorists, quote unquote, have been saying forever now, and it seems to be the last several decades is pretty much accurate.
You know what cartels do?
So
cartels and African warlords, you've heard the crazy things they do. The Pizzagate-esque actions of cartels and Liberian warlords. And nobody blinks when you tell them those horrors, do they? But you tell them their white leaders do that, they all of a sudden are like, that's far-fetched. I don't
like even conversations about pandemics and I can't like the things that have come out again. People are not mad enough, and there needs to be arrests, and stop redacting the names of disgusting human beings. And the Clintons and the Bushes, jail.
don't have evidence of that. Well, you think that Hillary Clinton's not going to avail herself of the power that a cartel boss would avail themselves of? Are you joking?
Right.
All the leaders do that. They're all into it. It's not far-fetched. It's all in the files. And if you know what to look for, it's even scarier than I originally thought. And I'm far out.
So let me just. So there was a lot of people who would I would cringe when I would hear them referred to the Jews, and the Jews do this, and the Jews control, and the Jews think. Does this kind of what I'm hearing Keaton? Does it kind of justify that kind of anti-Semitism in a sense?
No.
Does it? Or
No, I mean, quite frankly,
No.
yes, it
No.
does. And I say this as a Jewish person myself. Like I am completely tired of hearing accusations of anti-Semitism. I mean, quite frankly, the way the Jewish community on a whole has behaved.
It's not even like, I hate that they use anti-Semitism. This is what I mean. This is why I talk about this being a language thing and not even just involving Jewish people. It is a crime issue, left or right, pink, purple, blue, black, whatever religion, I don't care, right? If you are doing these acts, you are not a religious person who believes in God. I don't care what your religion is, whether it be Islam or Judaism or Christianity or anything else. Like, these people have committed disgusting acts, and for people to talk about it just because they align with a certain group, they're getting protected. And oh no, you can't say that. You can't accuse this guy of things that he's actually committed, because that would be anti-Semitic. Spare me. I'm so sick of that. And again, it's not helping people who are Jewish, actual Jewish people who do follow the religion and are speaking out against these people as well. And they call them Zionists. I understand why, but like, anyway, these people are not like religious believers in God. And listen to Epstein when he even mentioned Jesus Christ, just how disgusting he is with that comment.
These past couple of years has been,
and I don't even, and again, this is there's just so much information that leads me to believe that there was a possibility that a person like Jesus Christ did exist, like a Charlie Kirk figure who did incredible things. Because again, people are right. There's just so many accounts over so many different continents describing this person and the miracles that he committed and things that he did, etc. And so it's hard to dismiss that, but it is also hard to dismiss the fact there's a lot of like allegories and connections to the Son and Jesus, and even with like the birth date and the 12 disciples and the connections to the zodiac sign and so many other connections like that makes it hard for me to unpack just like that specific portion of it. Do I believe that people need to, through works and through like individual action, like they should be leading a life as close to this representative as possible and trying to follow the 10 commandments and trying to, resist temptations and the 7 deadly sins, etc., having balance. But yeah, I don't know. That's just one part of it. It doesn't mean that I'm dismissing Christianity, because I'm not, and I do believe it's a very effective religion. But anyway, but maybe I'll get into that more, because again, they're just going to be discussing more probably proof of things in the Epstein files that are just absolutely horrific. And it's not that I'm numb to this, I dissociate. But again, this is stuff that I've been looking into and sharing now for years, so it's not anything that is unfortunately new that's coming out that I didn't already know. Okay. There's a couple good ones here. Let me see. Yeah, I'll give you this one first. This is what I'm talking about. So the sine wave, which I've talked about before, which is I believe what makes this cosmos function, the sine wave in astrology explains Judaism and Christianity, syncretism, and astrotheology. And this is from Luminescent Learning.
I think that they've got a corner on the truth, and they don't.
Again, this is Jordan Maxwell talking.
Realize it's just worshiping the sun. Let me give you an example. We got a couple of moments. Let me give you an example. I want to try and understand what I'm saying here. All of the religious concepts and ideas in Christianity and Judaism come from the northern hemisphere. We don't have anything in our Christianity or Judaism that comes from the Aztecs or the Mayas or the Aborigines of Australia. All of our concepts and ideas come from the northern hemisphere. Very good reason, because the whole thing of religion and Judaism and Christianity is astrology. It's based on the stars. That's what God is. Ask any kid where God is. He's out there. That's right, the stars. That's what the Christianity and Judaism is based on, the stars. And so on the first day of summer, the very first day of summer, the sun is as high in the northern hemisphere as it's going to go. It's not going any further north than the first day of summer. Each day after the first day of summer, it begins to move 1 degree southward every day. It's so slight you'll never notice it. But 90 degrees later, or 90 days later, which is 3 months later, it's halfway down. So when he was high in the northern hemisphere, he started summer, and summer begins in the constellation of Leo. He was the Lion King, like Disney's Lion King. The Lion King is the sun in the constellation of Leo that begins summer. The Lion King, the lion of the tribe of Judah. It's Leo, the constellation of Leo in summer. The sun is hot, so he's the Lion King, Leo, the constellation. Now, 90 degrees later, 90 days later, he is falling. So now it's called fall. Yeah, because he was really hot. Now he's falling. So he's not that hot anymore. So now we call it fall because he's falling. What is the symbol for fall if it isn't Scorpio, the backbiter? And this is why in the old ancient world, when a scorpion bites you, they have 2 stingers, one on top of the other, and when they hit you, it looks like 2 lips. And then so the ancient people said, you just got the kiss of death. He just kissed you off because you just got bit by a scorpion, and that's the kiss of death. That's why the mafia gives you a kiss of death. That's where it comes from. So Scorpio is the backbiter. He's the one that goes behind your back and rats on you, and he's the backbiter and causes you to die. And that's what Judas was, the backbiter, Scorpio, because Scorpio begins fall. So Jesus, who was the Son of God, the God's Son, the light of the world, he was the Lion King in summer, but now he is falling. The sun goes all the way down south until it hits what is called the winter solstice. And that's on December 22nd, the sun hits the lowest point on the sky in the south on December 22nd. It's called the winter solstice, the beginning of winter. And for 3 days, the United States Navy can show and explain it to you that the sun comes up for 3 days, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th on the same degree. It doesn't go any further south, and it doesn't come back north. But on the same degree that it was on December 22nd, the sun rises the next 2 days, 23rd and 24th, on the same degree. So the ancient people said that the sun was alive. He was the lion of the tribe of Judah, Leo. He got the kiss of death from Scorpio, and now he is 3 days, he's not moving at all. So therefore he's in his tomb for 3 days. Then on the 25th of December, the sun moves 1 degree northward. And you can calculate that as the Navy does. You can calculate. It's very slight, but if you got the right instruments, you can see the sun move 1 degree northward. Therefore, it came back to life. So now we celebrate God's Son being born again. He's born again. When? On December 25th. So we celebrate Christmas on Christ's Mass. But as the sun moves back toward the northern hemisphere, it crosses over the equator at spring, because he was dead in winter. Now he's springing back to life. So as he comes back to life and crosses over the equator, there was a celebration called the Passover, because the sun has passed over the equator, coming back to the northern hemisphere. And so today we even say when someone dies, we say grandmother passed last night, grandfather passed away, or they passed on, but always past was associated with death. So God's Son has passed over the equator. So once a year, around the world, the Jews celebrate the Passover, which is nothing more than the sun passing over the equator. And Christians, of course, cannot do that because that's Jewish, and they wouldn't want to have anything to do with the Jewish celebration. So Christians have a totally different celebration. They call it the resurrection of God's Son. And so they go out on the Passover and go out and have something called the Easter sunrise service. So you actually have Christians going out and waiting for the sun to come up for something called a sunrise service. I mean, what is that all about? Christians are worshiping the sun. And then when you start looking at how the word S-O-N and S-U-N are interchangeable in Christianity, And God knows there's a lot of information on that. So that basically you boil down Christianity as some worship as astrology. Old Testament is astrology.
We talked about all this, and getting back to.
All right, one more, and then I do have to go. I have an appointment. Okay, which one? This one. I get way too many tabs up. All right, again, just from Jordan Maxwell. I don't agree with everything that he has shared. And even when I was doing this video, I just wrote down a bunch of notes because I'm like, I do want to say, like, I want to give credit. Again, I'm going to reiterate to Christians because I don't want to make it seem like I'm anti-Christian or anything like that either, especially European Christians. I want to say, like, especially like in the last few hundred years, have been responsible for so much progress and evolution and communities thriving now. And I'm just going to give examples where, especially Christians from European, because like a lot of these things I'm talking about still in some areas of the world where it's largely Christian, they're still practicing things that we don't practice and we have not practiced for hundreds of years, and in fact illegal. Okay, so anyway, the separation of church from state, separation from pope and rulership in that regard as well. And so where people were encouraged and urged to not only read the Bible, to be literate as well. So you had to be literate to read the Bible, but to also study the Bible and discuss it. And so that was very significant. Because again, even now, there are countries where it is under strict religious law, and it is not good for a large percentage of the populations. And I've talked about women's rights and children's rights and age limits and things like that. But anyway, I'm just going to go down this list. So the relationship is with God, it's individual, and to follow the 10 Commandments. Female genital mutilation, again, especially in Europe, this was something that was not, that was stopped. And then in Canada as well, like even present day, obviously. And I do not think that people coming in from other countries that do practice this as part of their religion, I think that this should be illegal. Anyway, underage marriage, another thing, it's against the law. All right, you can't, and also you can't have more than one wife, right? These are still being practiced in many other countries from other religions or from like this religion, but again, like has not adopted the European model of Christianity and the North American model of Christianity, especially in the last couple hundred years. Can't marry cousins, especially first cousins, illegal, as it should be. Incest, nope, don't be doing that shit for so many different reasons, illegal. So for the right to life, liberty, and property, pursuit of happiness, that's what property was replaced with. We allow other religions to practice freely within our societies, where this cannot happen in many other societies, even present day. And this is something that we've adopted for a couple hundred years. And we see that even within Canada, a good model of that. Again, it's being destroyed now, especially in the last 10 years, but we used to have a good model. Female rights, I've talked about that, right to vote. Again, this was largely within Christian, European, and then Canadian American organizations, and then culturally adopted. And anyway, superior contributions regarding like the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, charter laws, things like that. So superior systems of governance in place that, again, we're not seeing in many other countries even now. I don't know what that word is. Oh yeah, don't practice cannibalism. Okay, so this was practiced in areas, and we saw that, and we were like trying to educate people, missionaries, etc., saying like this is not what we do, or and maybe reconsider that because it's crazy. So human sacrifices were big too, especially pre-Christian, like settlers and people, explorers, and then even people here coming as essentially slaves, or indentured servants, but especially people from Irish backgrounds coming in, especially after the potato famine, and the women, the little girls, they were housed with people to do for no pay to raise the children of like the elite groups of people that were living in Canada at the time, and to do all the daily chores and the cooking and the cleaning and stuff like that, again, for no pay at all. And they were treated very, very poorly. And the young boys were pushed to certain farms and areas, again, for manual labor and working in mines and things like that as well. And yeah, animal sacrifices, all that stuff, especially Christians were saying, especially after the with the New Testament, God again is like says that again, there's no human sacrifices or animal sacrifices needed. Sacrifices to God are through individual works. Anyways, I'm rambling and I do have to go soon. I have to drive like an hour away. But anyway, this is very interesting.
Hanging on a cross. That didn't come till 700 years later, after Christianity was started, that they finally came up with a symbol which is now today universally accepted as a symbol for Christianity. But it wasn't used for 700 years. So how many people know that, and how many people care? And what does that mean for the belief system you have today? Well, it quite simply means that you don't know what's going on. You have no idea in the world what happened the first 600 or 700 years of Christianity. It's never been told to you. You don't know where the Vatican comes from. You have no idea about the fall.
So with Jordan Maxwell, some things he says are incredible. Sometimes he's wrong. And so there's even accounts of this, like even in Ethiopia from like even 91 AD and things like that. And murals and Bibles and things like that for like a different version
of the Roman Empire.
Closer to the time.
And why it fell and what the name of the tune is for America today. And why we are today nothing more than a Roman Empire even today. The United States government is a Vatican Jesuit institution, period. End of sentence. Anybody who's ever done any research on Washington, D.C. and the founding of America know that the Vatican is the bottom line for the rule in America, which ultimately influences the whole world. So I'm just saying that there's a lot more for us to learn. Excuse me, and I'm telling you, I think the reason why it's so difficult for people to learn new tricks, we say old dogs don't learn new tricks. But I think the reason why it's so difficult is because most people...
The Bohemian Grove and the Bilderberg groups have a little bit more influence than the Pope, respectfully speaking. And that's my opinion on that. Trilateral Commission, people part of the EU.
Have the attitude in life which is expressed in the Bible and the New Testament as the Pharisees. You have to ask yourself, when Jesus is condemning the Pharisees, there was at least a dozen different groups, supposedly groups of ancient Jewish people, according to the history and the story that were given. There was about 10 to 12 groups of Jews, and all of them having different belief systems and different ideas. But in the Bible, it only has in the New Testament Jesus condemning one or two, the scribes and the Pharisees. But he really raised and condemns the scribes and the Pharisees. Well, who were the scribes? Well, the scribes scribble. We got a word scribbling from scribe. So the scribes that Jesus condemned were the scribblers of Scripture. Scriptures, scribe, scribble. So they scribbled the words, and so they were the writer. The people who wrote all the religious literature were the scribes. They wrote down so that people could learn from the religion by reading the book. And so the scribes were condemned. As Jesus said, they were liars and they misled people. And then there was the Pharisees. Look up in the encyclopedia, Pharisee was a lawyer. And the lawyers represented the state. They don't give a damn about the truth. They represent Caesar. And so even the Jews who were Pharisees were the lawyers, and the Jewish lawyers. And so Jesus ranted and raved about the Jewish lawyers who lie and deceive and become wealthy by manipulating people and stealing their property, etc. So, okay, so then there were two groups of Jews that Jesus ranted and raved about, and that was the scriptural writers, people who write all these holy books that the bookstores are just filled to the brim with all kinds of goofballs who write about this, that, and the other thing for Christians to read, and then the lawyers, the Jewish lawyers. So I'm just saying that when you look at the religions today,
yeah, I don't know. Like, so even with like the 12 tribes of Israel, Isis Ra'el, and that connection with the Mazarot or the Mazaloth or the Zodiac Belt, and the 12 disciples and the 12 titans and the 12 this and the 12 that. These are all connections, I believe, to the sun, the luminary, and its travel path within the zodiacal belt that it does not ever move beyond, and is smaller and more local. And I've written a science book. I've actually written multiple and then dissertations as well. I've just not published them yet, and because it's hard to get people to even just like read or consider reading them when they look at the title. Ridiculous. Anyway,
have an open mind and understand that nothing we're reading today, nothing we understand today, is what it was 2,000 years ago. You know, first century, the first 100 years of Christianity bears no resemblance to Christianity today at all. Period.
That's what the Bible says. The Bible says that the gods they look human.
But who wrote the Bible?
Well, I don't know.
What is the Bible?
I think
well,
the
the
Bible
James version of the Bible, published, I believe it was in 1611. 6 plus 1 is 7. You got the 711. So many connections with that. And so possibly Sir Francis Bacon and others were involved in like the writing, the reinterpretation or the translation of the Christian Bible. And there's multiple different interpretations of it.
Is a very interesting and profound
in translations
book, but I understand it because I've been looking at it for 58 years. I've talked to all the professionals.
But it's written in code, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, and I'm the one who talks about that. I'm just telling you that there's a deeper story there. I believe that the Old and the New Testament are metaphors, spiritual stories that are metaphors. And if you're looking at the Bible as history, then you don't understand. You don't get it. But if you're looking at this Bible with spiritual eyes and knowing it's telling you something, but it's a metaphor, it's a symbolic story.
Mm-hmm. Galatians 4:24 does discuss, like, again, this battle between the physical and metaphysical, or the spiritual and the material, and it being treated as an allegory. So Galatians 4:24, and just interpret that and the meaning behind that. That's my interpretation of that even. And so...
Because the Bible has Jesus saying, many will look with their eyes, but not see. They will listen with their ears, but not hear. And with the heart, not get the sense of it. And so I'm saying that's exactly right. There's something in the Bible, but you don't see it. It's a metaphor. It's a symbolic message of symbols. And if you understand the symbolic message, now it gets scary. Because now it's real. Now you can finally see it. That's why when you educate someone, they say, oh, I see what you mean. What do you mean you see what I mean? Yeah. Well, I get it. I get
you understand it.
Yeah, I understand it. Yeah. Well, how do you understand? You stand under the foundation. If you're going to build on the second floor, go down the first floor and see if the foundation is going to hold what you're going to do on the second floor. So now you're standing under the foundation to get understanding. That's where the word comes from. Right. To stand under a subject. And now you understand. And so I understood that he has knowledge and can do things I can't, and I love being around him because it was fascinating. Mm-hmm. I learned so much from him. I didn't feel required to ask him, where are you from and who are you? He was my friend, my girlfriend's father.
And you had been very inquisitive.
Symbolic. It all has to do with metaphors.
Can we talk about the symbolism behind that particular section.
Well,
of the
what you
Bible?
need to know about the Bible right off the bat is Genesis 1:1 in the English Bible, the King James Bible, does not say what it says in Hebrew. It does not say what you
So
think.
it's been
it says.
rewritten.
It's been rewritten, retranslated, and it's all screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in the King James today, you will read Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's not what it says in the Hebrew. It doesn't say that. And so I talked with one of the leading rabbis back in 1960 to 65, was a dear friend of mine, and we used to talk all the time, and he was a very powerful rabbi in America. And I asked him, and he said, nowhere in the Bible does it say God created man. That's Christian ideas, but the Bible doesn't say that.
It's just a story that is written to control people or
Well,
to
maybe
make
not.
them believe something in a certain direction.
That's right.
How many different alien species and races do you know of, or heard of, or been?
And I think he's wrong in
I
that.
have
Actually,
heard-
God created he, she. God created they, he, they. And yeah, so I gotta like re-look into like where he's coming with that. And he does mistranslate Hebrew sometimes. It's been known. So maybe I'm gonna stop sharing that because like I didn't watch that before going into it, and some things again are just a little bit of a ramble, and I just don't have the time. And so anyway, on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.